posted 30 days in a row. What happened?
Yeah, so at a high level, I would say it was a 500% growth of viewership compared to the previous 30 days. So it was clear I got more views.
Jay Kranda, longtime friend, frequent guest of the Digital Ministry Podcast. I'm proud to say that I was with you in the early days prior to all of your international travel. So,
true.
So we've crossed that hurdle together. But Jay is the online pastor at Saddleback Church, and one of the most influential churches in the world. And I would say for over a decade, you've been pioneering digital discipleship, navigating the complex world of online ministry, and helping churches rethink what it means to gather, grow, and go beyond the walls of their building.
Did you just ask ChatGPT this question?
No, not at all. This is all from the heart. Jay, I think you're a strategic thinker. I think you're a gifted communicator and a practical guide for leaders trying to reach people in an always on, always connected world. And honestly, Jay, I mean, whether our listeners are pastors, techies, or just curious about where the church is heading next, this episode is for them. I'm glad you're here.
That's awesome. It's crazy. You know, it's funny. Like, before we talk about what we're actually going to talk about, I have a photo.
People have already tuned out.
I know, people are like, okay. I have a photo that loops that kind of comes back on my Google Home device. I have in my office here, I have a TV that just has Google, a folder.
Spyware.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's what it is. I've accepted we're all online. But I have a photo of us in the back of like a bus in London. And
nice.
It always brings me joy because it's me, you, Holly, and there's somebody else. And it always brings me joy.
Awesome. I love that. It's probably Daniel. I think, was Daniel with us? Oh, no, not on the London one.
I forget.
Tom.
Yeah.
It's maybe Tom.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about? You did an interesting experiment and posted about it recently. And I called and I was like, hey, can you share about this? So we tell people all the time, consistency is key at growing your audience. Consistent posting, consistent messaging, valuable content. And you took it upon yourself to post every day for 30 days on TikTok and YouTube. So where did this idea come from?
Yeah, I mean, I think the digital landscape is, especially on social media landscape, is this ever-changing thing. Yeah, I was just earlier today, I was talking to a pastor who pastors a church about 2,500. He was like visiting here in Southern California. And he was asking me this question, like, how would you prioritize social media and do this, that? And I was telling him, I go, yeah, a lot has changed in the last, 3 to 5 years. It was forever early on. It's just who you liked and follow, and you kind of just post. And then they moved to a feed strategy because most of us were liking and following too much. We couldn't see it all. So they had to somehow prioritize. And then TikTok kind of came in from the third rope and just kind of said, no, we don't trust what you like and follow. We're going to decide what you see. And this is what we call the algorithm. And the algorithm is just this supercharged, we're going to tell you what you like. Not maybe it will be informed off of what you like and follow, but really they're doing hundreds of thousands of beta testings every second. And if something does fractionally better, it goes up. And if it doesn't, it goes down. And this is why many of us have experienced this. You'll post something on social and it might get 300 views, and then you post something else and it might get 10 views. And you're like, why was it such a dud? And so I learn by doing generally. And so I like to kind of practice what I preach. It's one of the reasons why I still like being at a church in a role, like experimenting, doing this. And I was like, what if I just, I've heard so many people talk about like, my feed's going to be different than probably a lot of people who are watching this or listening, but I get a lot of digital marketing advice on these platforms. And a lot of people talk about how easy it is to pop on these platforms, like, and go kind of quote unquote viral. And I was like, and they really say quantity over quality in a lot of these strategies. And so I was like, what if I just post every day for 30 days and pick YouTube and TikTok, because those are kind of external platforms for me. Instagram and some of these other platforms are more private platforms for my friends and family. So I did post some things, and I think you actually saw my video on Instagram, but I didn't post every day, but I just monitored, and I actually created a Google sheet. I tracked all the data, and it was very interesting to kind of go through it. But this is why if you're listening to this, like, the only way you learn in this is, yes, you read things, yes, you listen to stuff like this, but you got to go do. And when you do stuff, it's on the ground training, and it actually, like, it informs a lot in your strategy, I think, long term.
So before you tell us how it went, because I do want to know about that, what were your goals at the beginning? What were you trying to accomplish?
I was legitimately interested in the idea of quantity over quality. Like, could you actually, instead of spending, because, like, if you pick a platform like YouTube, there are a lot of famous YouTubers that now post every 2 weeks, is like a very typical strategy. They'll put a high quality, longer form video, mainly because longer form will generate more revenue. And so you're seeing kind of the 15-25 minute videos, but then you're also seeing, on the flip, you're seeing the short form. And so I was really curious, like, is that true? Like, should I spend more time on my videos and post less, or should I post more? And there's a suspicion that if you can't do super high quality, maybe just go all short form, based
I,
off the stuff I see.
I guess I was wondering, were you trying to get like more followers, a larger audience, try
Yeah.
to get a post go viral, or
Yeah.
what was
So
the
in that type of KPI, I know here in MI, we talk about that as like a dashboard, your main, like, data points. I would say I was curious if I would get more views. Like, statistically, would I just drive my views up and in that conversation reach? I was also super interested, if I were to grow my views and reach, would I, and this is more of a selfish thing, but, like, this was part of my KPIs. I have a book. And so I was curious if that would anyway drip down to book sales, which is a lot of friction, but I was curious, like, because I also I get these videos too, and you probably are in the same camp. I know you don't use TikTok, but a lot, but I use TikTok, and, like, I've seen a lot of people get 20 million views on TikTok, and they say, like, they didn't monetize. All their other videos get like 1,000 views, and it was just one pop. So I was also curious, like, does the engagement mean anything? Like, can I, because there are people that get a lot of engagement, but they don't monetize it in any way, or it doesn't lead to anything. So I think reach, and then also book sales, were kind of my, like, I was interested if anything would work.
So now I'm just curious, do you monetize any of your channels? Which I'm a fan of, by the way. And if people don't know what I'm talking about, if you have a lot of views, you can, you know, share in the profits. But do you do that?
I don't, on, I think all my channels, like, for example, on YouTube, I have enough subscribers, but I don't have enough watch hours. And if you're on YouTube, on most of these, they will give you like a studio or an admin view, and they will tell you what you need. But no, I haven't. I do monetize it through my personal website. Like, I sell my book. And so I do make money off of people finding this and buying. I sell my book on my own store. It's hosted through Squarespace, so I can have digital downloads, or you can buy it on Audible or Amazon. And so I make money that way. But on these actual channels, I don't. And most of the time, even like for my own church's channels, we don't monetize, mainly because we want to remove ads usually in our strategy. And so we have one YouTube channel with our church that we do monetize, but I will say we normally don't. But I probably would personally, if I could, definitely, if it was an option.
So posted 30 days in a row. What happened?
Yeah. So at a high level, I would say it was a 500% growth of viewership, compared to the previous 30 days. So it was clear I got more views. I had the same thing where I had a couple duds under 100 views, like 89 views, like totally random. And then I had a couple that did really well. I did not go viral. Like, I kind of joke in my summary video that I'm not famous from this. It did not, like, work in that sense, but I did grow. I think it was 513% views over the previous 30 days amount of views. So it was clear posting every day, if your metric is more engagement, was a really good thing. The other thing is that I got really good at talking to my phone on like vertical video and understanding the format. I think I got better at the first couple seconds of pitch. Like you have to, like, instead of saying like, oh, we're going to talk about this article today, you have to say like 10 things like that you need to know. And like you kind of start to craft what you're going to say. And then I could make it a lot quicker. I got really good at it. And it's just the idea of a muscle, like a muscle that you use. And I could turn it around, and like even holding the phone, like you figure out if I hold it this way, I'm blocking the mic. So my audio sounds weird. I did do a different formats. I recorded some in Instagram using like a green screen filter in there. Some of them I recorded on my desktop using my external camera, and I edited in Final Cut. I did all sorts of experiments. I didn't learn anything from that directly, but I will say the most important thing was I just got better at the medium. And I feel like, oh, like this is pretty easy. And as somebody who kind of came up in at the tail end of blogging, like I feel like I got my roots in, like I had a blogger account. A lot of people who I run in today actually used to read my blog. And like, but I find, especially as somebody who's probably more of a talker than a writer, I did find it really fun. And I'm like, oh, this is really good. Like, this is a lot easier for me. And if I do it regularly, I could do it. I could do it better, I think. And so the muscle, getting better at it, was one of the biggest learnings.
Did you repost the videos on your website, or did you just keep it on the platforms?
I kept them on the platforms, and then I would just create a blog post on my website for like archive, but it would be linked out to YouTube or whatever. And so I did do some email communication where I emailed my email list, but I didn't do it every day. I would just usually do a summary of the week, because I only send an email out once a week.
I should be more familiar with this. I'm not, though. I know on YouTube you can see like depth of view metrics. Do they
Yeah.
give you that on TikTok as well?
They do. It's a little harder to get, but I didn't do a deep dive into all the content on engagement. Generally, the shorts and TikToks I would be very similar to, I would say, long form, where like a lot of my videos were probably longer for a short than they needed to be. If you want to double post, you have to keep them under 3 minutes, because I think TikTok can be up to 9 minutes now or even longer. YouTube shorts have to be under 3 minutes. So I just kept everything under 3 minutes, but I had pretty good engagement. And I will say, I have seen that there's been some data around this, that generally, like, the more your video is watched in retention, the better it will do. So meaning that if you post a long video and people aren't watching more than 30 seconds, the algorithm will stop telling it. So this is one of the reasons you might want to be shorter. And so, because it doesn't mean, again, this is the counter thought in the internet, like, because people will say, just do short stuff. Everybody has like an attention span of a goldfish, but then like, podcasts will be 3 hours long. And so it's more about the quality of the conversation and how intensive or passive somebody's watching or consuming it. And I will say, TikToks and shorts are more in like scrolls. Like somebody will just be holding their phone, and it's more about like how long will they hold their phone to watch it. But yeah, I didn't notice anything that like jumped off the page on retention.
So, for those that haven't seen it, give an idea of your audience and what the content is. So if it's like, hey, I've got the top 10 things you need to be doing as an online pastor, or whatever it is, because that kind of draws people into the video and like pulls them through it, which means
Yeah.
you can hold their attention a bit longer. But like, what's that look like for you?
Yeah. And that was definitely another learning of leaning into your niche of whatever you're an expert on. I think one of the things that I kind of realized based off of different videos that did better, it was more like it's why they might come and listen to me. So if I'm just sharing my opinion of like some political thought or something random, like it's like, why do I care what Jay thinks on this? But if it's on digital ministry, online ministry, digital discipleship, it's like, oh, Jay's been doing this for almost 15 years. Like, I care about this. And so I did a lot of, for me, what I did a lot of, it was either thoughts or principles that were out of my book, or there were quotes of like there's a quote that I do reference in my book of Steve Jobs talking about the bicycle of the mind. And I just reacted to this quote. And that's actually a video that did a lot better. I think mainly because the thumbnail had Steve Jobs in it and it had me reacting to it. And I think most people would just click on it thinking, oh, this is, they don't know me, but they know that. They know that person. And so I did a lot of just digital marketing, online ministry related stuff. And so one of the things was YouTube did about 49% better than TikTok for me. And generally, I think the reason is, which surprised me. A lot of people talk about how viral TikTok is. I will say, I don't even know because I don't look at it. I had one video on TikTok do super well, but I have like 5,000 likes on TikTok, but only like, I think I only have 130 followers on TikTok. But on YouTube, I have like 1,200 subscribers. And I think naturally my YouTube account did better because I have more. It's kind of like it's the ripple effect. My ripple, like you put a stone in a pond, my ripple of what's possible organically on YouTube is better. So I just think those performed better. And then the algorithm supercharges that. And so, but I stayed within my niche. And generally that's what I find is you stay within your niche. And so like, one of the jokes would be like, if I just was reacting to cat videos, like who cares what Jay thinks about cat videos? I think I could do that if I'm super famous. There's a point of celebrity that you get, then you can kind of broaden. But I think early on that you got to establish your base. And I think in my case, like I know my base and I'm probably, I always joke, like I know this for sure, but I have every online pastor in the country on my email list generally. And so I have a very small niche, but I have that niche. And so if I broaden out, like I got to be a lot more famous to do that. And I'm not there. And so I think you learn that as you're posting what videos do better.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, well, I want to try this, like what would you tell them? What are the top few things that they need to be thinking about? And that can go from setup to tools to how to prep your content, like whatever comes to mind for you.
Yeah, I definitely would say I do think the experiment, one of the big learnings was it's a really good experiment to do because I think in a culture like ours today that where everything is changing and there's so much noise, I think we got to be better at creating content in an affordable way. And I think sometimes we over idealize like what professional content. I mean, you sent me something today of like an Instagrammer that did this like amazing Devo that's just amazing. And I can't do that. Like I'm not able to do that at my level. But I think you can lower the bar. And so for me, the big action steps was just pick a time, like in the morning, whatever it is, and you just post for 30 days. I would highly recommend. I actually created an Asana board because I use Asana for tracking stuff, and I just had like 30-day challenge, and I would brainstorm ideas every day, and I just had tasks. And as I did the videos, I checked it. You can do a Google Sheet, and I would just random thoughts. I know there's a famous YouTuber, Ryan Trahan. He does this where every day an alarm goes off at a certain time and he brainstorms video ideas for 10 minutes. He's like very famous for this. I would do that if you're doing this, like what are different ideas? And then stay within your niche, whatever that topic is. If it's like church ministry, whatever, just like iterate. And one of the hardest things, generally what you find, and I watch and learn from a lot of famous YouTubers just because I'm interested on the field. Sometimes happens is somebody will have a very famous video go viral and they try to create different types of content and they realize that viralness was the heartbeat of what was interesting. And really what you find with a lot of famous YouTubers and people like this is they will replicate the same idea over and over again. And so if you find something that works, repeat it multiple times in different versions. That's actually the algorithm. Like that's the approach. Again, Ryan Trahan will 1-star reviews is one of his series, and he'll do 1-star review like airlines, 1-star review hotel. You'll see this. The most famous YouTubers are usually not creatively doing a bunch of creative things. They're just repeating the same idea because that is the niche that they're in. And so my encouragement is like, early on brainstorm, but if you have something that does 3 times better, iterate on that and maybe do the same video from a different angle. And it's kind of like how, God is constantly telling us to do the same thing throughout scripture. It's just the same thing over and over again. It's the same thing. You might be, I don't want to create another video on that. Well, you might need to say it a different way. And maybe it might take 3 videos for them to understand the concept. And then lastly, figure out the best way for you to record it. If it's on your desktop setup, I found I really like Instagram's capture process, and it's not fancy, but I like doing green screen, filter effect, recording, putting captions, and then I download it, and then that can be ported out to other things. And I got really good at that. And then just do a couple 4 tests and show it to people that know you, that can be honest with feedback. And because my friends will do that. My kids will give me feedback. My kids harass me that I promote my book too much, which I like. So then I hear that, and then I have to stop promoting my book for a bit. So yeah,
That's marketing 101. You got to tell people like 7 times before
I
they
know, I
get
know.
the message. So, no, it's good. Jay, I appreciate it. I think those are some great tips. And what did you use for editing?
I
You
did
mentioned it to me earlier.
yeah, I used a mix of Instagram and TikTok for editing, but I also used Final Cut Pro, which is more of an advance. I will say something we've talked, I think, on a previous podcast. Descript is definitely an amazing tool for creating shorts or TikToks, and Instagram Reels, mainly because they have an AI feature that you can port content in, and it will automatically create vertical videos. It's really good for repurposing content. I think my strategy was more native content for these platforms, but I've used Descript. A couple of my TikToks up are Descript videos before this 30-day test.
Nice. That's great, Jay. I mean, always good catching up with you, of course, but you always bring some really unique insights, and I just love this. If people want to go look, so jaykranda.com is your website that you mentioned, but then if they want to find you on like TikTok and YouTube to go look at some of these,
Yeah.
how can people find you?
Fortunately, there's not that many Jay Krandas, so it's Jay Krandas is my handle on those platforms. I did the video that you're talking about. I would check that out. I have a 30. It's funny. Since you text me about this, wanting to do this pod, I did notice that video has been getting more traction. Not that it's, again, I have a small platform, but it's funny how that video has done a lot better. But I have a video where I share my 30-day learnings. Is kind of on day 31.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad we recorded this. I think it's some valuable insight for folks that are listening. And even though you sniffed it out, my Chat GPT intro, I meant every word. It was all true.
Thanks.
So thanks, man. We'll talk again soon.
See ya.